What up, creatures from cyberspace? John here from the GraveTalk podcast, and today we're going to talk about creepiest Twilight Zone episodes. The Twilight Zone isn't often, I think, a show that comes up when people talk about horror television. You know, it's not quite in the vein of like American Horror Story or something like that Exorcist television show that people made. But honestly, now that I've watched them all again, I'd say it's probably one of the best television shows of all time, and I think it has a number of really creepy episodes that stuck with me when I was a kid and stick with me to this day, even on second watching. The Twilight Zone is heavily based on twist endings, so I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers throughout this whole review. I highly recommend you watch these episodes. All of the Twilight Zone is streaming on Hulu and Netflix. So without further ado, let's jump in. This episode follows a lady named Nan Adams. She's played by Inger Stevens on a cross-country road trip. Very early in the road trip, she gets into an accident. I guess a tire blows, and we see this mechanic who's like, "Man, you're lucky to walk away. You know, the tire is 37 cents or whatever tires cost in the 60s." And she's like, cheaper than a funeral, and she goes on her merry way. But before that, she sees like a shabbily dressed hitchhiker. And for some reason, it really unsettles her. She asks the mechanic, "Hey, do you see that hitchhiker?" And he's like, "No, I don't see anyone there." She's like, "Oh, it must have gotten picked up," and sort of puts him out of her mind. But then, as she continues down her road trip, every stop that she makes, she sees this hitchhiker. And he doesn't say anything, which I think adds to the creepiness. And, all he does is just pitch his thumb, and she's just sort of getting really freaked out because this guy is just mirroring her every stop. He is always there. No matter how... And so then she's like, "All right, I'm just going to drive faster." And it doesn't work. No matter how fast she drives or how far she goes, she just sees this hitchhiker. And then she slowly starts to break down. And I think this particular episode is really carried by the acting of Inger Stevens. Nan Adams is the character. The plot is interesting, but there's not a whole lot to it, to be honest. But Inger, Stevens does such a great job of playing a woman in distress, a woman slowly losing her mind. And then, at one point she picks up a sailor who... He's, I think, the straight guy in this, right? He's the everyman, and it's the first time you really get to see her interact regularly with another person, and you see how far she has just sort of broken down, right? How far she's changed. In the beginning of the episode, she's chipper, she's confident. By this point of the episode, she's really lost all of that confidence. She thinks she's losing her mind. She's going mad. She's terrified of this hitchhiker. And then the twist, man, is a classic Twilight Zone twist. I think this is often regarded as one of the best episodes of the Twilight Zone, just in general, and I can see why. This twist is... what else can I say? It's just tremendous. You don't really see it coming, and when you do, you can rewatch the episode with that in mind, and it takes an interesting turn, and then it leads to the hitchhiker's only line of dialogue. So overall, tremendous episode. Really creepy, one that will stick with you. This is a scary doll type episode. I just hit my desk. Maybe that got picked up by the camera. But this is a scary doll type episode. What more do you have to say? This is really kind of a proto-Child's Play type episode where a child gets a doll named Talking Tina, and it really, for whatever reason, sets off this stepfather who, he's kind of an asshole. He's your prototypical dick stepfather. He's unable to conceive his own child, so I think he carries a lot of that baggage with him, and he takes it out on the wife and the daughter. And Talking Tina is here to put an end to that bullshit. The episode, pedal to the metal right away. Within like the first 3 minutes, Talking Tina's doing some weird shit. She said, as soon as she picks the stepfather picks up the doll, she's like, I'm talking Tina, and I don't think I like you. And he's like, what is this bullshit? And so he's trying to figure it out. He thinks it's a prank, which, considering 1960s technology, is a bit of a leap. But he thinks it's a prank, and they've hidden a walkie-talkie in there. And then, like, the mom is in the kitchen, saying all this crazy shit. Then he tries to destroy the doll. He tries to throw it away. Kind of all of your classic, how do I get rid of a doll things. Obviously, none of it works. This one doesn't really have a twist, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue, tell you how it ends. But he tries to throw it away. The dog gets back. She's like, I'm talking Tina, and I freaking hate you now. You're on some hate bullshit now. And then she sort of wiggles her way so that the dad trips over it and falls down the stairs. That kills him. The mom picks up the daughter, and she's like, I'm talking Tina. You better be nice to me. Episode ends. Rod Sterling comes in, gives his classic outro. Great episode. If you hate dolls, if you hate that entire genre of episode, of horror, your Annabelles, Chucky's, etc., etc. I think this, started a lot of it. It's uncanny how close it is to some of those movies. Obviously, it was an inspiration for them, and really just executed solid. Great 25 minutes of television. Arguably the most famous Twilight Zone episode. This is William Shatner's episode, or one of his episodes. He was in two, but this is the one he's famous for, where he is a man who has just been released from a mental hospital, and he's flying home, and the whole thing takes place in an airplane. I think it does a great job of expressing a bit of claustrophobia. I mean, if you are already afraid of flying, this is gonna speak to you. It's gonna fuck you up, to be honest. Like I mentioned, William Shatner, he's playing Bob Wilson, who's recently been released from this mental hospital. He's flying home with his wife. He gets on the plane. He gets the window seat. It's his lucky day. He looks out the window, and there's like a gremlin on the plane, on the wing, just tearing at the fucking wing. Naturally, he's like, yo, wife, check this out. Gremlin's gone. He starts to panic. Everyone's like, okay, he's having another breakdown. It's fucking Bob over here doing some Bob shit. But he is losing his mind, right? Every time he looks out the window, he sees this guy just fucking with the wing. He's like, there's a creature on the wing, etc., etc. He tries to warn the crew, and they're like, oh, yeah, we know about the fucking wing creature. Don't worry. We don't want to panic everybody, but we got our best guys on it. And he's like, y'all are fucking with me, aren't you? So he goes and sits down, but this gremlin is just eating away at him. I won't tell you the twist, but it's really, really great. I mean, Shatner, he acts the fuck out of this episode, man. He really does. I think his over-the-top acting plays well with this kind of material, and he hit a home run. What I didn't find out until I was doing some research is this episode was directed by Richard Donner, who, of course, went on to do Superman and Lethal Weapon. So you got a Donner-Shatner joint, It's great. It's great for television. It'd be great for a movie. It is, it's classic for a reason. And what more is there to say? Give it a watch. If you're going to only watch one episode on this list, this is probably the one, because you're not only going to get a creepy one, but you're going to get, Twilight Zone operating at 100% hitting every mark. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, which I'm required, I believe, to say by YouTube law. And of course, second part of the law, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of my ramblings and other awesome GraveTalk material. We do Let's Plays, we do, reviews, etc., etc. Check out our website. You know the drill, man. This is your first YouTube video. All right. Catch y'all later.